Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Resveratrol is an amazing antioxidant whose potential is just starting to be understood. Today, on our second episode in our Exploring Herbalism Series, we will be taking an in-depth look at resveratrol and the many benefits it has to offer. Bob and Rollie identify some of the different plants that resveratrol can be found in naturally and discuss some of the recent studies proving the potential of this amazing antioxidant. Learn how new technologies in herbalism help combine resveratrol with other plant compounds to maximize their benefits and help you live forever young.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Live Forever Young Radio. I'm Bob. I'm here with Rollie. Rollie, how you doing today?
Good, Bob, as usual, man. Getting ready to get ready for the weekend. It's Friday, so
yeah,
recording, getting ready to go.
Yeah, it's
you
awesome.
You can see me. I'm wearing my hat. I got my boomer stuff on. I'm ready to go.
And it's going to be a cool weekend.
It is down here in
Florida. It's not
Florida.
going to be in the 80s.
No.
Here, and usually it's in the 80s in November, but we're going to be in the 70s.
And we're almost going to get an inch of rain today, which is very abnormal for Florida in November.
Unfortunately, I think it might rain out the weekend's Little League games.
Ah.
Which is too bad, but let's hope not.
Hey, you can always do it next weekend.
That's it. And so, Rollie, today we're on program number 2 of our series on herbalism.
Right, Exploring Herbalism. We decided we wanted to do a series because there's just so much stuff to go over. In this one, we're going to start by going through some individual ones. And one of the most amazing antioxidants that I know of, and I figured we should start with, is resveratrol.
Yeah, so resveratrol is actually what's called a bioactive compound, or in this case, a phytochemical, because it's from a plant. Right?
It's a chemical from a plant.
It's a chemical from a plant. And so the reason it's considered part of herbalism is that it comes from a plant, so you can get it from grapes and other things, and it can be extracted. The active ingredient, the phytochemical, can be extracted, so you can actually get the benefit of having more of it without having to eat piles of
Japanese grapes or whatever,
or cranberries or blueberries or the like.
Yeah, like what we were talking about on the first episode of this series is the history of herbalism. Well, modern day technology has given us new techniques that allow us to extract these things. And so like a lot of the plants that you find good amounts of resveratrol in are things like grapes, like you said, and cranberries, a lot of berries. There's mulberries and blueberries. And then another really good source is Japanese knotweed. Actually, that's where we get ours in our resveratrol advanced blend product. We get it from the Japanese knotweed.
Resveratrol is actually in a class of these bioactive compounds. It's called polyphenols. So resveratrol is a polyphenol, and we know from a lot of research going back years now, more than 20 years, that there's a lot of different things that resveratrol does. And it helps with many, many different parts of our bodies and many systems of our bodies.
Resveratrol itself has been talked a lot about recently. There's a lot of benefits that people didn't really know about up until recently. And those things are things that a lot of people have health issues with, like heart health and inflammation, things like that. So the fact that this simple grape can really help with those type of things is something a lot of people couldn't really understand,
Yes, I think that, the impetus that led to the discovery of resveratrol was this whole thing they call the French paradox, which is people from France tend to eat a diet that is, high in fat, and a diet that people might associate with a population of people that wouldn't be in very good shape.
Right.
Yet the people from France seem to be unusually healthy for the type of food they were eating, and they were suspecting there was something in their red wine, which they drink with their meals, that was helping. And that's what led to the discovery of resveratrol.
Right. The scientists are sitting around going, these people eat nothing but like crepes and cheese and butter, but they're really healthy. What's going on? Well, what else do they eat? Well, wine. That's about that's every meal they drink in red wine, you know?
And so turns out that's the resveratrol is in there. And so we now know that resveratrol actually stimulates genes. So
A lot of research on this,
when you
yes.
take in a pill that has resveratrol in it, it gets into the cells of your body, and it's finding your DNA, and it's pinging the outside sheath on the DNA in certain spots and unwrapping it for genetic expression.
Right.
And so this is why resveratrol can help with so many different things, because it's pinging more than one gene.
Okay.
And so each time it unwraps a specific gene, something new occurs. It stimulates a metabolic pathway.
A new expression, if you will.
And so that's why you see that it helps with your immune health. Right?
Yeah.
And also your cardio health and your cellular health right at the mitochondria level. So the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's making energy, and those mitochondria are most highly concentrated in your heart muscle cells.
Right.
And so, and we know that resveratrol is acting as an antioxidant. It's blocking inflammation.
Right.
And part of the reason is that when resveratrol is created in a plant, it's created in response to a danger.
Okay.
A mold. In the case of grapes, it's usually a mold or changes in the weather.
Something invasive, something disruptive.
And it creates resveratrol, which acts as a repellent.
Counteracts it.
Yeah, counteracts.
That's pretty cool.
And so when you take in resveratrol into a human, it acts as an antioxidant, and there's a lot of oxidation going on in the mitochondria. And especially if you have high iron, there's tremendous amount of oxidation going on. And so the resveratrol is helping to negate that. It's an antioxidant.
So
anti-inflammatory.
So by reducing the inflammation and helping with the oxidation, it helps with what you were saying. Bring this back just a little bit. It helps with cellular health on the mitochondrial level, which is the start of all basically human life, right?
Yeah, that's where the energy of human life is being created on a molecular level.
Right, and so the healthier you can make that, the better you're going to feel. Right.
Yes.
So another thing that I was reading about and I thought was quite interesting is very good for reducing neurotoxicity. So a lot of people who have memory issues or are starting to experience things where they, having problems with their memory, they were using resveratrol, and it seemed to help reduce that toxicity in that area.
And it's neutralizing the peptides that make this amyloid plaque that's present in Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
And so we know that there's a genetic and then metabolic pathway with resveratrol that interrupts the formation of that plaque.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Another thing I heard that you actually just told me right before this is how it helps to neutralize the LDL cholesterol's oxidation as well.
Yes. Yeah. So LDL cholesterol, low density lipoprotein, is generally what people consider bad cholesterol that clogs your arteries and leads to a heart attack.
Correct.
Right? But some LDL is actually good and some LDL is not good. And when LDL gets oxidized, that's when it becomes sticky and problematic and inflammatory. Right? But resveratrol, they now know, blocks that oxidation.
Really?
So what the good LDL remains good LDL and doesn't morph into a toxic LDL.
A sticky, glycation, like we talk about when the sugar gets glycated, it gets sticky. Something similar like that happens with the LDL. And that's what makes it stick to the artery or to inside your...
It sticks to the inside of the arteries.
The arteries,
Creates,
Didn't want to say the
and
wrong
creates
one.
inflammation. So the other thing that's really important is resveratrol facilitates the repair of your DNA. And so DNA is constantly being assaulted by free radicals.
Right.
Okay?
Oxidation, free radicals, all of that.
You get cuts in the DNA, and so now they have to be repaired so they can function properly, right? And the way they repair it is because the genes are in pairs. So if you get a cut in one side of the gene, you will have RNA that will make a copy of the still intact gene and come over, and with that blueprint, they'll make a repair to the DNA to
patch it up.
And it's happening many millions of times a second. This is happening in your body. And without your ability to make DNA repair, you would live just for a few years. You're constantly using tremendous amount of energy to repair your DNA.
Wow.
And resveratrol facilitates that, and probably also facilitates this damage to your DNA. It's making it less, right? Because it's happening from free radicals, to a certain extent.
Right.
And so just that part alone makes resveratrol a really, really valuable polyphenol for us to be able to take in.
Yeah.
And so we make it into a pill form so you can get it concentrated. And we also know that if you combine it together with other things, it works even better. And this is a big phenomenon in the world of herbalism is, okay, here's this one polyphenol.
Over here. Right.
But what happens if we combine it together with this, and this, and now we have a blend or a stack that people can take by mouth that will have multiple beneficial effects.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like 1 and 1 sometimes equals 2, but in this case, like 1 plus 1 can equal like 6 or 12 because the benefits, obviously, they stack up because of what's in there. But because a lot of the compounds work actually in synergy, you can get more beneficial health effects by actually, like you said, kind of stacking these things. And so when we were looking for a good resveratrol supplement, we realized that one way to get the most potential out of these things is by getting them in a blend. So like one of the things that we really wanted to make sure that resveratrol was blended with is grapeseed extract, right? Yep. Because when you combine those two things specifically, a lot of really good stuff happens. One of them is we've talked about this on other shows, cellular health show we did, where you trigger apoptosis, yep, which is the death of old and inefficient cells, right? So right, you've got a bunch of old cells. They should have died a long time ago. Normally, cells die at a certain time, but a lot of them don't like to leave, right? they're still there.
And they create inflammation. They secrete inflammatory cytokines, which makes the whole region now damaged. And so it's good to have something that will trigger that cell to die off and stop infecting the area, and then it'll get replaced by a new adult stem cell will come morph into that type of cell and replace it. And the combination of the quercetin, which is in the grape seed,
right, with
the resveratrol, which is in grape skin,
right,
then when you mix those two together, they have this effect of stimulating and signaling these old senescent cells to die off and get out of the way.
Right, and then make room for the new ones, right? And then
make room for the new ones. And this aspect of aging, there's anti-aging scientists that believe that these old cells that won't get out of the way are the biggest issue in aging.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I would think that not having room for new cells to take over would probably be a really big issue with trying to stay healthy, whether it's aging or not. Obviously that makes sense, but if you don't get these things out of the way to bring in the new ones, you're going to have a problem, right? And so
you're going to die younger,
right?
For certain.
We don't want to do that.
We also have green tea extract that's also in
that's
this
a very good thing
blend, right? Which also is an additional compound that helps to fight free radicals. And sometimes people say that when they take resveratrol that they actually lose weight, right? And they're not quite sure the mechanism, but if you also add green tea extract, which also helps to lose weight, a blend now like that will be even more effective.
Okay, I didn't know that. One of the other things that we do have in there that you don't hear a lot about, but also really helps with inflammation, is called Moringa oleifera. And that kind of combined with all the different things in there, with the resveratrol and the green tea that fights the inflammation, that's one of the things that helps the cardio system out, right? Like we were talking about before, it's really great for cardio health, and in a lot of people, they have high inflammation. High inflammation chokes off your circulatory system, and you can't have blood flow like you used to. So sometimes by using that to help with this, that's one of the things it'll do.
Yeah.
It'll reduce that inflammation and help the blood flow.
It's just remembering also, Rollie, we get reports some people sleep better when they take resveratrol.
Absolutely.
And so we actually made a combo pack where people could get our Good Night formula with resveratrol together, and they could use both, and it tends to make the Good Night formula work even better.
Right. I mean, a lot of the reason why I think it works so well is because when you're sleeping, you're repairing your body the most, right? That's when you're doing a majority of your repair. So when you're repairing, you need help with the removal of the inflammation and all of that. So when you combine the resveratrol with it, it helps your body to get the repair process efficiently done while you're sleeping. And the Good Night formula helps you stay asleep, which is made from a lot of herbs as well. Actually, a lot of really good thought was put into the Good Night formula that we made. A lot of really good stuff. But we'll go over that on another show, because we're doing a series about it.
That's right. So, Rollie, this is, the second one in our series. It's about herbalism. And so a big part of herbalism in modern day is being able to extract these very specific bioactive compounds, combining them together with other bioactive compounds or whole plant parts if you want, and mixing together to get these great blends. And this is what the modern day herbalism is like.
Right.
In the past, before these technologies, people would say, okay, you're sick with this, let me take some of this leaf, some of this flower, some of this, some of that, and we'll mash it up together and we'll make a tea, and you can drink the tea.
Right.
And people still do that type of thing.
That works as well too.
But it's in the modern day now, we can actually take pills that have a similar effect.
Well, I think the main thing that we're saying here is that you can control what you're taking. The dosage, you can actually have a dosage of something that you would normally have to boil in a pot and kind of guess how much you're getting.
Exactly.
So it makes it a lot more accurate. And so when you're able to be accurate and you can actually study the effects that these things have, you can see at what point, okay, at this amount, we're going to have this effect. And as opposed to not really knowing what that scale would be. And so there's a lot of things that new technology brings. And one of the things too, and this is probably the last thing we can go over on resveratrol, but the way that you deliver these things into your body is also rapidly becoming new, and there's more technology that makes it more efficient. So when you also put these things with different compounds that help them to absorb better, you get more of a health and benefit effect.
Yeah, and in the case of resveratrol, that's really important. So, Rollie, this was great. It's good talking with you about this.
Love it.
And just wanted to thank everyone for watching and listening to Live Forever Young Radio, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.